You're watching Rogers TV, Barrie.
Hello, and welcome to the Ordinary People Show, where ordinary people are doing extraordinary things. My name is Jacqueline Dixon, and I'm your host. And today we're talking about narcissism, the #1 word Googled in 2022. And our guest, Marian Balogun. Hello, Marian. How are you today?
I'm good, Jackie. Thank you so much for having me.
Fantastic. Thank you for joining us today. I'm super excited to hear about this topic, the #1 Googled word in 2022 was gaslighting, and that was as a result of the increased interest in this word called narcissism. So you've got a story to tell us about narcissism, and you've gone so far as to writing a book on it. So let's dive deep and find out everything we need to know about this growing topic of discussion. First of all, tell us, who is Marian?
Thank you so much, Jackie. I'm not surprised that the #1 was gaslighting. There's a lot. I've noticed that there's been a lot of it going around. My name is Marian, but I'm a marketing communications professional. I help brands and individuals communicate better. I give them strategies to help them communicate better with their target audience. And as an author, I help educate individuals about emotional abuse.
Amazing. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
Marian, how long have you been doing this, and is this your career path?
Well, I've always been a literary person. I've always been interested in literature. I've always read self-help books, theater. I'm a big lover of the arts. But being an author, I wrote this book last year, so it's just been a little over a year. This is relatively new to me.
Okay, so this is your first time as a published author?
Author, yes.
I see, okay. Now, the topic is narcissism. I'm completely intrigued with this word because of its growing interest and popularity in the general public. Maybe you can tell us about the definition of narcissism, or narcissism on a whole, for those who are not familiar with the word.
So I'm just going to describe who a narcissist is. A narcissist typically has an inflated sense of their own importance, and they basically have no empathy. And that reflects in everything that they do in their relationship, maybe with their spouse, their relationship with people in the community, the relationship with the children. And as we continue to talk about it, you would hear, different aspects of how you can actually spot a narcissist.
So a narcissist is a person who has an inflated value of themselves. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Yeah, so we're all taught to be confident. There's a very fine line between confidence and outrightly not caring about anybody, outrightly just being, I'm trying to find the right word, outrightly just being like an abusive person. You know how they say there's a fine line between love and hate? So we always have to make sure that there's a right balance when it goes towards not caring about how your actions or your behavior affects somebody else. Then it's borderlines. It starts going into emotional abuse, which is where narcissism comes in.
So a narcissistic person, if I can paraphrase what you're saying, when you said a person who has an overinflated value of themselves, this is not a person who is confident. This is not to be confused with, being confident.
Yep.
This is a person who has it's past that place of confidence where it gets to the place where they believe that they have they are valued or should be valued more than the people that they are connecting with or the people within their day-to-day lives or community on a whole? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Because there's a very big difference between confidence. Confidence is, project yourself, speak for yourself and put your head up high, and believe in yourself. But when you derive pleasure from inflicting pain on somebody else, that goes into being like psychopathic in a way. That's where it starts going down to, you're emotionally abusing that person. So there's because like you said, one of the most Googled words were gaslighting, because a lot of people these days, a lot of people are confusing narcissism with people that are just confident, people that are just focusing on their careers, and not, which is what really brought about this whole gaslighting thing, because this part of the world, everyone is focused on their career, everyone is focused. You would hear that social media brings about narcissism and all that, because you're all focused on just projecting your own image and focus on yourself. There's nothing wrong in developing yourself. I'm a very big advocate for self-growth. Like that's what I promote. Like always, train yourself, go to events and always grow your mind. You always have to have a growth mindset, a positive mindset. But then, when it now goes to you are no longer focusing on just growing yourself, and you're actively doing things that emotionally abuses somebody else. That's when narcissism comes in.
I see. Thank you so much for that very, very clear understanding. Marian, you said that you come from a background of marketing, and marketing and writing a book on narcissism doesn't seem to really connect. So I'm trying to figure out, where does the connection to being a marketing coach, how does that connect to writing a book on narcissism? Is there a story behind this book, or? Well,
I would say that being a marketing professional and working with the kind of brands I've worked with kind of prepared me to write this, because not only did I write it, which I do a lot of content creation, I do a lot of writing for my clients, but not only did I write it, I also did all the marketing. So because I do this for my clients, I was able to just do it for myself. It wasn't a big deal for me. Once I got a platform, I was like, okay, the next step is to go ahead and then of course I didn't design the cover, but I monitored it, because it's part of what I do. It's part of the services that I offer to clients, so I was just able to do that for myself.
But why narcissism?
That's a very good question. So my job as a marketing coach is I help people tell their stories. So I felt that since I was equipped with those skills already, I could transfer them and use them to tell my story, because I was victimized.
Oh, I see. So you yourself have a lived experience of dealing with a narcissistic person?
Yes.
Can you share that story?
So I think it all started when I decided to relocate to Canada. I was also going through some emotionally draining situations that I didn't know how to handle. And I decided to have a fresh start. So I came into Canada. And because when I came right into Canada, the COVID hit, the community I was already in, I was kind of stuck there because everyone had to stay within their bubble. And this is how I got exposed to the person that, emotionally abused me.
Right. And what was that experience like? How did you know that was a narcissistic relationship? What was that? What were the triggers? What were the signs?
It was so first of all, it's like people ask, how do you know you're being abused? Which is funny, because I didn't know that I was being abused. And typically, some of the signs to look out for is when you find out that someone is talking about you behind your back, you would know, because some other person will come and say something that you had said to only one person. So, spreading rumors, trying to smear your name. There were things like, this person kept confusing me. Like, you would say one thing the other time and you say another thing the next time. There were things like, the person never, if there was a situation where the person was wrong and the person was supposed to apologize, the person would never apologize, So those funny behaviors, and I was confused, but I just thought, I don't judge people, so I just thought maybe it was the COVID fatigue, maybe, but when it went on to, when it really went on to now, taking it to a position where they were now saying things that I had never done, and that's affecting me emotionally. I felt, okay, I need to really understand this person so I know how to relate to the person, better. So I went on and I started researching, and that's when I now saw that most of the characteristics this person was displaying were narcissistic characteristics. So I went on and continued digging to see where I came in. I found out there's a lot of words. There's a lot of words that I found out. I know that I am not a psychotherapist, but eventually when I, decided to now defend myself or protect myself against the person, I realized that some of the things that I did were things that a therapist would recommend. I did also go to therapy. So when people that have read the book will see that there are a lot of psychological terms used there. I had done them before I even realized that, those terms existed.
I see. That must have been a very traumatic experience, relocating to a brand new country, not really having any roots here at all, and then wanting to believe that you could put your trust in new relationships that you start. And you ended up putting your trust in one particular relationship, and it resulted in that being a narcissistic one.
Yes.
That takes a lot of strength to be able to overcome that. What was the length of time that you spent in the relationship, and then how much time did it take for you to get out of it?
So I would say COVID was 2 years, so it took about a year and a half. I only started realizing what was happening within, let me say, 8 months into our relationship. And then, by the time I now found out, okay, this is what's been happening to me, I'm being targeted, I started, of course, putting things in place. I did things like no contact, which as of then, I had no idea what no contact was. I just knew that I had to disengage from this person. But when I started the research on this disorder, that's when I realized that what that meant was no contact. So that's why I say, even though I'm not a psychotherapist, there are a lot of psychological terms. I do explain it as it happened to me, but you would see those terms there. And then when I realized that, I moved away from the area, because as of that time, I was then done with my studies, and I moved to Toronto, and I was able to focus on healing and, reintegrating myself into society.
Thank you so much. We're going to pick up where you left off right after this quick commercial break. Very interesting topic. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Ordinary People Show. We'll be right back after this quick commercial break.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Connection. We all need it. We live for it. It makes us feel like we're a part of something bigger. It makes us laugh, cry, and scream out for the world to hear. Connecting Canadians has been our focus for over 60 years, and it's just the beginning.
Focus better.
Partner better.
Sleep better.
Breathe better.
Love better. Work better. Friend better. Unwind better.
Everything gets better when you get active.
Welcome back to the Ordinary People Show. We are discussing narcissism with new author Marian Balogun. Marian, before the break, you had mentioned to us that in your time spent in your new relationship, there were signs, there were signals that you were getting that allowed you to realize that this was not a healthy relationship that you were in. What were some of the specific signs that triggered the red flags that allowed you to know that this is not a healthy relationship?
I would say one of the ones that really made me aware was this individual went outrightly to, ensure that she's, segregated me from everybody. Like, I don't know what she was saying to them, but obviously whatever the person was saying to them were lies. And, she had basically told them to stop speaking to me, and this really affected me because I was a new person here and COVID had hit. So the only people I knew were those people in the community. So if you go out there and you say, don't speak to this person, I mean, you're really trying to cause harm. And then the individual will go ahead and also say things like, don't ask her. So I couldn't say my own involvement. I couldn't say my involvement, like how I got into this, and they were not telling me what was happening. But luckily, one or two of them came to me, and that was how I was able to know. The others were, this individual would use whatever means to fight me. He went as far back as even using their own child. So there was this incident where they took the child's phone, and because the child was chatting with me, and they went on and was communicating with me, and after a while I found out that the chats were insultive. Of course I didn't know, but at the end, after investigating, I realized that this was the person behind it.
I see. So eventually you did some research, you found out that this was an unhealthy relationship that you had found, and it was actually a narcissistic relationship. What were the steps that you took that could help someone else identify and recover from a narcissistic relationship?
So I would say that from my experience, when you're in a narcissistic relationship, the intent of the abuser is to keep you there and continue, taking supply from you, continue putting you in a situation where they can emotionally trigger you. And once I found out that this was what was happening, even though I was already really hurt, I went on to, first of all, like I mentioned in my book, that first of all, you forgive yourself. So I had to forgive myself so that I could see clearly any other tactics that were used, that were going to keep being used against me. The other was I completely disengaged. As I mentioned earlier, I later on found out while, I was researching that, no contact. But in a situation where I find that in a situation where I could do that because I'm just an individual, I didn't have any dependents, right? But in a situation where people are in situations where if this is something that's happening in the workplace or is happening with a partner, and there's no way you can totally disengage, then what you do is that you have to put up a professional front. So you just make sure that you are only communicating with these individuals professionally. And as I mentioned, I also mentioned that in the book too. The other one is I did a lot of meditation because I'm a religious person. So I did a lot of meditation, which really helped me, and a lot of prayers. Another thing I did was I think one of the first things I really did was I went to a therapist. So you have to seek professional help because I'm not a psychotherapist. And even though I went online, and I was able to find out, okay, this is what is happening, I needed help, professional help to be able to navigate how to continue going about it. So I went to see a therapist and I went into therapy, and I would tell you that therapy really helped me. Really, really helped me. The last I will talk about is, really reflecting and asking yourself, what was my purpose in this whole situation? Why did I have to? Because I'm one of those strong believers that feel that anything that happens to you happens for a reason. So what was the reason? Why did I have to be, dragged into this kind of situation?
Very good. That's very good advice for anybody watching the show. I want to bring up a slide that you brought with us, with you today, that shows in detail some of the effects experienced by a person going through a narcissistic relationship. Can you share with us some of the pinpoints that you have noted on your slide, please?
Okay, so typically, because of the constant fight, flight, and all the triggers from this fight-flight relationship with, if you're involved in the narcissistic individual, you find out that, especially it affects us, it affects women more. You find out that you begin to lose hair. Most of what is displayed here actually happened to me. I had indigestion issues. I had, my menstruation was imbalanced. I lost hair. I actually thought that I had cancer. It was funny because when my hair was falling on the floor, I thought that there was something wrong with me, and I had to, go and do tests, and I just found out that I was under extreme stress. It causes a lot of anxiety. You find out that your heart starts palpitating. Your heart starts, really racing. It's just because it's going through some emotional situation that is making really. The others I would say would be continuous headaches. So you find out that you're always having a migraine, because your body is not settled, your mind is not settled, and then it just goes on to really continue affecting your body.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm just so shocked at how many physical ailments an individual can experience from being in that type of an emotional relationship. So these that experience can trigger all of these physical ailments. Now that you're out of that relationship, you are considered to be a thriver, or your life is now thriving. You decided to put your experience in the form of a book. What do you hope to accomplish as a result of writing this book?
That's actually a really good question. So earlier I was explaining some of the things that I did to get over this abuse, and the last one I mentioned was what was my purpose. So I found out, after a lot of reflection, that one of the reasons why, I think this happened to me was because so that I'm able to then educate individuals about the signs of emotional abuse. I believe that when you see the red flags, when you're able to spot the red flags, I think that's where the problem is. If we can spot red flags in our association with people, then we're able to kind of prevent ourselves from getting on into situations. Because I would say that at the very beginning of the book, they were red signs, and I was unable to pick up on them.
So now that you've put your experience on paper and in the form of a book, you recently had a book launch, and the book is being well received. Yeah. I believe it reached #1 bestseller.
It became #1 on Amazon's ebook and Kindle platform for abuse and self-defense.
Excellent, very good. So a lot of people are taking advantage of the information that you're sharing, and your hopes, of course, is that many others will continue to do that as well. How do you feel now that you are a contributor to the health and well-being of other people's lives?
Well, I would say it feels amazing. I've always been someone that, even in my marketing career, I want to help people tell their story. So it feels amazing that I'm able to use my experience, to help as many people as possible. I'm one of those advocates that say prevention is better than cure. So if you can spot these red flags, please protect yourself.
Fabulous. And where can an individual find your book?
It's currently been sold on Amazon. Once you type in the name, my name and the name of the book, it will come up. But it's also on my website, which is booksbymarianbalogun.com.
Fabulous. Now, let's talk about what Marian is doing today. I know that you're continuing to sell the book. You're continuing to spread the awareness of narcissism, but now you're not just a thriving author, but you're back in your career as a marketing coach. And how is that going for you?
Well, it's going pretty amazing. That is my background. Like I said, I really love, helping people, put them properly in front of their target audience. If it's through public relations or creating content, that's where my strength is. And I'm really excited that I could use my skills to help tell somebody else's story.
And when you are telling the stories of other people, are you using your own personal experience to help to coach them through their experience as well?
Yes, the way my services works is that if you want me to support you and coach you through, then I usually do that, and then I can start off with you and then coach you how to sustain it, or you could just give it to me as a project and I handle it as a project and give you a result at the end of the project.
Fantastic. Since arriving to Canada, now that COVID has, wrapped itself up, you've been through that traumatic experience, you're on the other side of it now, and COVID is gone. What do you think about your Canadian experience today?
Well, the fact that I come from a place where we don't have this much opportunities. It's amazing to be in a country where you have opportunities, and not only opportunities, but you have resources, to support you. I see there's so many trainings, there's so many empowerment programs that are going on, and I'm really able to tap into that and really help continue to hone my skills. So yeah, it's been pretty amazing going forward since, the experience that happened to me.
Fantastic, and we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining me on the Ordinary People Show today.
Thank you so much, Jackie.
And thank you to our viewers for joining us on the Ordinary People Show, where ordinary people are doing extraordinary things. We'll see you next time right here. Cheers.